What is your purpose? And what does it mean to have a purpose? Does it matter? They seem like silly questions, but the more you think about it, the more confusing it gets. There are a lot of different religions, for example, that present different reasons for our being. Then you have philosophy. There's just so many different ways that you could go about determining what your purpose is or what purpose even means. Today, I want to work through it, break it down in the way that makes the most sense to me, and maybe it will make sense to you. I spent a long portion of my life feeling a sense of greater purpose. And by greater, I mean something just a little bit past what society would have you become. You know, you go to school so that you can go to more school, so that you can then get a job and make money and pay back the money that you spent on school, and then stop working at 60 and then consume for the last 10, 20 years of your life, and that's it. So I knew that there was something more for me than that, but I didn't know exactly what that was. There were some times where I thought that I did. I thought that it was clear, and it was invigorating. It gave me a reason to love life. It gave me something to look forward to. And I'm mainly talking about my music career, or the lack thereof. I started writing music freshman year of high school, so I was 14, and I thought that's what I was going to do with the rest of my life. I had a sense of purpose. I wanted to change the world one song at a time, which is really, really cringy looking back at it. My wife and I had a conversation recently about how you can't expect to change the world if you can't even change your own. And I think that was a big thing that held me back from achieving that greater purpose that I thought I had. Was I wasn't doing a very good job at changing my world, which is a really hard pill to swallow, because I was really passionate about my music, but I wasn't disciplined. Passion and talent can only get you so far. Now, if you're just a ridiculously talented person, you're lucky, because we have the internet now. And there are some people that are just so talented that can carry them a certain distance. But even then, if you don't put in the work consistently, you're going to fall behind. And at the end of the day, how fulfilling is that going to be for you? How full are you going to feel at the end of your life, knowing that the only reason that you got rich and famous is because you were extremely talented? Like, you didn't do anything to earn that. It was handed to you. You were born with it. And that takes me to another thought about purpose, which is what makes us who we are at the core of our being. Is it all based off of our experiences? Are we born a complete blank slate, or are we born with inherent qualities that are different from everybody else? Now, if you're a parent, I'm sure that if you're not extremely narcissistic, you probably would say that we are born with certain qualities. Yes, your parenting and the environment that you have provided for your child, of course, plays a role in their development as a person and contributes to who they become. But I'm sure that you've seen moments of your child thinking something or doing something or being good at something that has little or nothing to do with the way that they're being raised. I would be curious to know how many parents would agree with that. I'm not a parent myself, but I do have a dog, and she is a wild animal. She's not a human being. Her brain is not as complex as ours, yet she has so much personality, and she can't speak English. We can teach her what certain sounds mean, like sit, lay down, at ease, but she doesn't understand English. She just is putting the collection of sounds to a meaning. And the reason why I bring that up is a lot of our existence is defined by language. A lot of our perception is defined by language. We assign different meanings to different collections of sounds. The only reason you're able to understand anything that I'm saying right now is because you understand the language. You understand what this collection of sounds in each word means. My dog doesn't. So if everything about us is shaped by our environment, then how does she have a personality at all? Why would she need a personality? She doesn't need one. She doesn't need a personality to lay around all day, play in the yard, sit down and then, eat and drink when we let her. Like that, you don't need a personality for that. So where does it come from? It's a really good question. And it's one that I hope we can answer today, but maybe we can't. So going off of the assumption that there are things that we are born with that are a part of us, then we also do have to realize that there are things that we are not born with that we soak up along the way. So if our environment and the opinions of other people around us and our education and our religion and our personal experiences, if all of those things have an effect on us and lead us to become the person that we are later in life, you have to ask yourself if the things that those influences changed about you, if that's really you. So for instance, if I had certain experiences in the education system that made me hate education and hate the education system, and I went on to build a career solely based off of the fact that I hate the education system and I want everybody to agree with me and I want to free people from it, which on one hand would be kind of noble, but on the other hand, you're missing some stuff. Is that even really you? Because the only reason you're taking that career path is because you experienced it. Now, that's not a bad reason to do something. That's a great reason to do something. If you've had an experience and you want to help other people through that experience, or just avoid that experience entirely, there's nothing wrong with that. But is it really you? Because you weren't born with that experience or that opinion. So then that begs the question, is it more fulfilling to do something based off of your development and experience and the opinions of others? Or is it more important to do something based off of the core of who you are? And if that were the case, how do you find out what is at your core? And why should you? So if we look at external factors driving somebody's sense of purpose, then, we can look at most career paths, right? Like no baby is born with the desire to go into accounting. Now, they could be born with certain aptitudes that would naturally lead them into that profession, and that's one thing. Other people might hate accounting. They might not even really be that good at it. They just had to work really hard to get good at it, and it's the thing that they wanted to do, but they don't really know why. So just looking at external influences on somebody's sense of purpose, you can see it all around you. Different career paths, ways that you raise your children, the religion that you affiliate with or associate with. But what about internal? There are some people that also have a career path that is very purpose-driven, and they have a mission, and they will stop at nothing to achieve that mission. And the funny thing about it is that you will never fully achieve that mission. That's the beauty and curse of life. It's just like the gym. You can go to the gym to get stronger, but you're never gonna really reap the benefits of being stronger, because every time you go in the gym, you lift something heavier than last time. And so proportionately, it's the same difficulty. Like going to the gym doesn't get easier if you're doing it right. So that's the funny thing about life, is that you continue to make improvements, but you can never improve enough, and it never gets easier. You get more skilled and you are able to do certain things easier, but the whole of the experience of life does not get easier. No matter how much you improve yourself or improve your financial situation, your life will never be problem-free, because it doesn't work that way. So my point is, you have some people that are very purpose-driven, and they have a mission. They will stop at nothing to achieve that. And that's the kind of person that people really look up to. Those are the trailblazers, the pioneers, the visionaries, the crazies, even. Now, there are some of those situations that are still externally driven. They experience something, they don't want other people to experience that, so they solve a problem. They're very purpose-driven. But I want to try to quantify what a sense of purpose really is, and if it's possible that it can solely come from something internal, something that was already there, something that was not birthed from your mortal experiences or the opinions of the people you care about the most, something that you were born with. What is that like? Does it exist? So I'll give you an example. For me personally, around middle school, whenever I was in school, I started getting this feeling in my chest and my gut. It was a feeling. It wasn't a thought. It wasn't a logical, rational, clear thought. It was a feeling that this is not what I should be doing. This is not for me. Now you could say, oh, that's just you not wanting to do the hard work it takes to get good grades in school. Okay, maybe that's the case. I'm getting another drink. Maybe that's the case. Maybe I just didn't want to work hard. Now, I will admit, there have been a lot of times in my life where I have neglected hard work because I was just already good at something. But whenever you do that, you fall behind. There's always going to be somebody that works harder than you, and they will beat you. It'll take some time, but they'll beat you. So, my stomach's all rumbling right now. I had speaking of stomach, I had a feeling in my gut, in my chest, that this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. This is not for me. And that feeling kept nagging at me throughout middle school and throughout high school and even after high school. Now, as time went on, I was able to start to dissect this feeling and get a better understanding of what it was trying to tell me. But up until recently, I still struggled with this. So for, 14, about 10 years. 10 years. No, longer than that. Like 12, we'll say 12 years, I struggled with this feeling that I was supposed to be somewhere else, doing something else. Now, what was that exactly? I couldn't tell you. I can tell you what it is now. I don't know what it would have looked like if I had been able to dissect that feeling and actually follow it and listen to it. I don't know. Now, what's crazy, this is unlocking a little bit of a memory for me. I do remember in middle school, I was getting bullied a lot, just every day, every class, and I didn't want to do public school anymore. I was really starting to hate it for a lot of different reasons. And I remember coming to my mom, I remember coming to my mom and telling her that I didn't want to do it anymore, did not want to go to school anymore. And I was asking her if I could do homeschooling. Now, homeschooling, from what I understand, it does cost money to get the material, and it's still regulated by the state somehow, even though a lot of people that do homeschooling don't really do it the way that they're supposed to, which I think is totally fine. I can't remember what it was, but for some reason we didn't do it. I don't know if it just wasn't taken as seriously, or maybe my mom did take it seriously, but we just couldn't do it. I don't know exactly. I don't remember. But I didn't end up doing homeschooling, which is the solution that I thought of. when I was having this feeling that public school was not for me. So all of that to say, I don't really know what it would have looked like, but I'm sure that you can relate. I'm sure there have been times in your life, or maybe your whole life, where there has been something deep within you that has been nagging at you. And a lot of the times it's not rational. Like, you shouldn't be in school right now. It's like, what? I'm 12. Like, what else am I gonna do? It's not like I can move out and start my own life. Like, what else am I gonna do but go to school? Well, that's a good question, because you could say, oh, well, the other option is homeschooling. What if it's not? What if there was another option? Or what if you could do homeschooling and then start a business as a 12-year-old? There are plenty of 12-year-olds starting businesses. And even without the internet, there's a kid, I can't remember how old he is, the youngest kid in some city that's a business owner, and he owns a hot dog stand. Like, that doesn't require the internet. So that's really interesting. I did not know about business at the time. I didn't understand it. I did not understand entrepreneurship at all. I wasn't really exposed to that world. You know, my family growing up was lower class, and I wasn't exposed to that. I did not understand that you could become anything that you wanted to become. I didn't understand that anyone could become a boss or a CEO, and it's your choice if you want to be an employee or a student instead of a teacher. I didn't understand that, and so if I did, I'm sure that I would have started some sort of business instead. Now, that's not saying that my greater purpose, this thing that was nagging at me, was to start a business, but that is, I mean, everything comes in steps. You have to start with the first step in order to reach the finish line, right? Or at least get somewhere in the race. So I don't know what it would have looked like, but I can only imagine. Sometimes I think back to that time and I wish that I would have started a business or just learned something about entrepreneurship, because after I graduated high school and I did start learning about that stuff, I was desperate. I was desperate to make money. I was desperate to build wealth for myself so that I didn't have to live the way that I grew up. And I was vulnerable. I was desperate. I was falling for a lot of really stupid things that were not going to fulfill me in the end. Things like drop shipping, real estate wholesaling, SMMA, you name it. Tried a lot of stuff. And it's because I was focused on the money. And that's what sucks, is that when you are, when you're on your own, when you're 18 plus, at least in the States, I don't know about other places in the world when you can move out, but whenever you're in this period of time in your life, you are searching for a sense of purpose. And I still had that nagging feeling that I was meant to be doing something more. But there was a really, really unhelpful belief that I had, paralyzing even, which is that I will do what it takes to make money. And my goal was 10K a month. And then I will have the time and the freedom to find my purpose and chase my passion. It doesn't seem like too bad of an idea. It's like, hey, just put your thoughts and your feelings aside for a couple years, work really hard, set up a future for yourself, and then you can chase your purpose. Now, some of you listening might see the glaring problem with that plan. What's the point? Because if you're trying to make a lot of money, you either have to be willing to step on a lot of people and do something unethical, or you need to have some sort of purpose behind it. And wanting to build a future for yourself can contribute to that purpose, but it's not the only thing that's going to drive you, especially if you're someone like me who is always searching for the deeper meaning in things. Like, it's not going to be enough for you. Chasing the bag is not going to be enough for you. Even envisioning a future where you can retire your parents and buy a house for them and move yourself to wherever you want to go in the world and have free time to do whatever you want to do. Even that ideal future for somebody like me is not enough, because you're focused on the wrong thing. You're focused on the end when it's about the journey. And that is such a silly cliche quote, but it's true. It's about the journey. And the only way that you can really enjoy the journey is if you have a purpose, if you know your purpose. So this nagging feeling within me was the thing that was pushing me to do all these things to try to succeed in some way, but I was going about it in the wrong way. I had the wrong perspective. Let me do the superficial thing first and then work on finding my purpose later. That is so backwards. So it needs to be the other way around. You need to find your purpose, and when you do, it will carry you in the right direction. Now, there is a Japanese concept. It's a very old concept. Some of you may be familiar. It's called ikigai. Ikigai. You can look it up. Ikigai, I believe. I failed the spelling bee, got second place. Now, ikigai is a diagram, or it's typically shown as a diagram of how to find your purpose, or what your purpose is. What is your purpose a combination of? And it is a combination, at least according to this concept, of 4 things: what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. So again, ikigai, or it translates to your reason for being, is what you're good at, what you love, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. When you combine all 4 of those things, it's kind of like a Venn diagram, but 4 ways. In the center is ikigai, your purpose. The really hard part about this is that if you are leading into this concept with just your mind, you're just trying to logically look at a list of things that you're good at, that you love, that the world needs, that you can be paid for, and just choose something that fits all those criteria, you're doing it wrong. You're thinking about it too hard. And there are going to be things that influence the thing that you choose. For example, if there are 2 things that I am good at, that I love, that the world needs, that I can be paid for, but one of them could make a lot more money, then naturally I'm going to want to choose that one, right? But what if that's the wrong thing? What if your purpose isn't even something that you could put down on a list because of where you're at in your life? So the question is, if you can't go about it logically just by listing things down that could be your purpose, if it isn't so obvious, then what is it? And how do you find it? How do you know how to figure out and understand and dissect what this burning feeling inside you really is and what it means? Now, for me, from my experience, I had to learn the hard way. I had to try all those stupid online businesses, the fast money online businesses. I had to work 16 different jobs in the span of, 6 years or 8 years? I think 8 years. I had to try a million different things because I didn't have the right perspective. I was searching for money. And what's funny is the harder you try to grab onto money, the more it slips through your fingers. It's like water. That whole idea of if you hold water gently in your hands, some is going to spill through and there's nothing you can do about it. But if you try and hold on to that water, if you try and grab that water, you're going to lose all of it. You're trying too hard. And that's been my experience with money. I've been focused solely on making as much money as I can per month so that I can then find my purpose, and it's backwards. So what if you're somebody that's listening to this podcast and you're putting it together and you're like, okay, I've been doing it wrong too, and I need to adjust before I waste as much time as Nolan did. Well, that's great. Then I'm really glad that I'm making this episode. Put your purpose first. You have to put your purpose first, but it's hard to do that when you don't know what it is. So let's dive into this question. How do you know what your purpose is so that you can put it first, so that you can do what you need to do to make a living and focus on building up your purpose and chasing your purpose on the side until that purpose becomes so impactful in your life that that is the thing that you are doing. You're making a living from it. You enjoy spending your time doing it. You're helping other people with it, and you're solving problems. So how do you get to that point? How do you find it? I have been trying to answer that question for myself for years now. Most recently, I have been developing a solution to help discover what your purpose is. And I am still in the process of refining it, but I'm really happy with what I've come up with. So I'm going to save that for the next episode because it would make this episode go on far too long. But I do want to share it with you. So I am going to do that. It's been changing my life and the way that I look at self-improvement and progress and all sorts of things. So yeah, I want to leave this episode with those thoughts. You know, your purpose is, from what I understand, a balance between things that are already there and things that you've experienced. Because you have to experience things in order to be led to your purpose. You can't just be a baby and you have the things that you're born with, and then you sit in a sensory deprivation chamber for 20 years and then emerge into the world and fulfill your purpose. That's not going to happen. You're still a baby. You don't even know how to talk, and you're pooping your pants. You're not going to be able to do a whole lot in the real world. So what I'm saying is, the thing that's deep within you, that's always been there, that drives you to achieve something greater, that is your inner purpose. It's been there all along, and you don't need anybody or anything to have that. It's there. But in order for you to discover what that is and how to go about it, you do need those external influences, whether it's horrible things that you've gone through because of other people, or just experiences that you've had and choices that you've made. Your purpose is a balance between those. And the problem that I see in the world and in myself is that far too many people are relying on those external influences to find their purpose. And all of those external influences are packed tightly on top of the core of who you are. There's too many opinions, too many different ways to do things, too many different things to do, too many different things to believe, so many different ways to live your life, so many relationships that you can have, people that you can listen to. There's too much. And although those experiences are important, especially important to learn from and grow from, a lot of times they shroud the inner voice that you have. And you need to be able to address both in order to find your purpose. So in the next episode, we are going to talk about how to cut through all of that noise, learn what you need to learn from your experiences and continue to do so, but cut through that noise and find your purpose. Strengthen your inner voice, allow it to come through, shine some light on it, and allow it to direct you in the direction that you need to go. So that's what we're going to talk about in the next episode. I really appreciate you guys listening. This is a little bit of a shorter episode, but it is what it is. I can do what I want, and I'm sure that you don't mind either. So, real quick plug, I have been building up a Twitter account. I've been on Twitter for barely over 2 weeks now, and it has just been a crazy journey. I do want to talk about that at a different time. If you're coming from Instagram, I highly suggest you check out my Twitter. It's the same handle. It's at the NOLAN.VOID. If you're coming from Twitter, welcome. Follow me on Instagram, same handle at the NOLAN.VOID. I'm trying to build a community of people that are looking to improve their life so that we can do it together. It's as simple as that. So if you want to join me on my journey and maybe get some insight that could help you with yours, I highly suggest following me on Twitter. I appreciate all of you. Again, thank you for listening, and I will catch you in the next one.